We're back. We're back for the fun part. Got to remember where this music is coming from, and then I can stop it. All right. That was from also from my band, 1986. Yeah, we're back for the fun part, and what I mean is the Q&A part. Questions are great. Answers, not so great. But I'll take a stab, okay? My best guess. That's what makes it fun. And we're going to start with something I forgot to do on the first part, which is, oh my God. This was just working. Oh, no, wait a minute. Here it is. Okay. This is Bob Dean. Bob Dean was a UFO researcher, former military guy, and had access to something called the assessment. And it was top secret document assessing the various races that were visiting the planet. It blew him away, and he's been on the track. He was on the track for the rest of his life. Never got to see disclosure, but he contributed a thought process. He contributed a line of thinking that we don't see too often, and that is he roped in the whole Jesus thing, and talked about the new world ahead. And this is just a great clip. Without further ado, let's just give this a listen.
I have concluded in my 30 years of research that the human race is indeed a hybrid race. The evidence is literally overwhelming. And if you dig into it and you study it and you evaluate it, seriously, you reach the same conclusions. Every major religious philosophy in our history, on every part of this planet, whether it's in Europe, whether it's Christianity, whether it's Buddhism, whether it's Hinduism, every major human religious endeavor has told the basic same story. The human race is a hybrid race. We have been created here. We were seeded here. And we have been genetically manipulated here from the very beginning of our recorded history. And that genetic manipulation has never ceased. It is still going on, as Cecilia likes to say, even as we speak. So, I reached that conclusion, and I will not argue with anybody about it. I simply say to you, look at the evidence. Apparently, this seems to be what has happened. Several 100,000 years ago, an intelligent race from somewhere else out there came by the planet, knew of the planet, stopped at the planet, and found a developing form of life here. Now, there are theories that the original seeding itself was done by an intelligent race from other places. But some of the theories have stated that this advanced intelligence was on an excursion, a trip, and they stopped off here and found a developing form of life and decided to manipulate that developing form of life into a higher form. And they've been involved in that off and on, but continually, for at least 100,000 years. When I studied anthropology some years ago, I always wondered why poor old Neanderthal suddenly disappeared in terms of time, a few centuries, And this new form, completely new form, which we call Cro-Magnon, appeared. What happened to poor old Neanderthal? Who is Cro-Magnon? Well, look around the room. You'll see Cro-Magnon here right today. But in terms of geology, in terms of anthropology, in terms of evolutionary theory, none of that seemed to make a lot of sense. You don't have evolution working that fast. Then there were other little curious things taking place. Why, about 5,000 BC in Sumer, did all kinds of things happen at once? A literal eruption of civilization taking place in the Euphrates and Tigris and Euphrates valleys. I mean, civilization blossomed and bloomed almost overnight. The people were taught, or they learned, agriculture, irrigation. They built cities. They knew how to plant farms. They knew how to harvest. They knew how to develop intricate governmental systems. They developed a military idea. They developed a very intricate theological and philosophical philosophy. And where did this all happen? Why did it all happen literally overnight? Well, Zecharia Sitchin, in his absolutely monumental work, clearly has the answer. In the great Sumerian tablets, in the cuneiform tablets, which preserve the complete history of the Sumerian people, the evidence is all there. Sitchin is probably one of about 10 people on the planet who can sit down and read cuneiform tablets like you and I read the morning paper. The Sumerians told us how it happened, how it came to be, where they got the knowledge, who taught them the knowledge. And this fits, and I tell you it does, fit perfectly with every other story, myth, legend, history of every people on this entire planet. The human race is a hybrid. We were seeded here, and we have had what I like to call an intimate interrelationship with high technology, advanced intelligence for hundreds of thousands of years. Now, the crucial thing is it is still going on. It hasn't stopped. They are still involved. And the big question has been for many of us is, who the hell are they and what are they doing with us? Which ties in perfectly with the ancient philosophical questions that each and every one of us has asked. Who are we? Who are we? How did we come to be here? What are we here for? And where are we going? And this is, if you remember from your own teachings, education, in school or church, the basic questions that human beings have been asking since the beginning of time. Who are we? Why are we here? And where are we going? And now in the last 25, maybe 50 years, enough people on this planet have seen enough evidence. They have had literally some of the facts and some of the evidence rubbed on their nose. And the world, the people of the planet are slowly beginning to pay attention. And that to me is the part, the gratifying part, which has kept me involved in this and kept me committed in my small way to bring some of this information out. Not to preach to you, not to have a crusade of any kind, but simply to tell you that you are a special species. The carpenter from Galilee tried to explain it. Krishna tried to explain it. Mohammed tried to tell the story. Zoroaster tried to tell the same basic story. The Buddha even tried. Why is it that it's taken us so long to begin to grasp a little of the reality of who we are, why we're here, and what's going on? Well, my commitment to this thing has been growing over the years, and I will tell you that I'm involved in it, I'm committed to it, because I think that time is running out. I don't think it's going to be much longer before you see most of the answers. And the reason I share that with you is that I'm not trying to frighten you. And again, I'm not trying to preach or proselytize. I'm not trying to lead you in any direction. But I'm trying to say to you that in the next very few short years, you're going to be seeing things and you're going to be experiencing things that are going to literally change your life in ways you have never dreamed or imagined. You are going to learn who you are. You're going to find out why you're here. And you're going to find out where you're going.
All right. Yeah, so some of the critiques of this that were mentioned on Twitter was that, well, that hasn't happened, has it? Yeah, it hasn't happened yet. Bob thought for sure that it would happen very soon because just like me, he made the mistake of, he underestimated the inertial mass of this problem. The secret keepers are covering something up that is so huge that it would incriminate the hell out of them. And that's what they're worried about. So, you know, I'm really not centered here, am I? Okay. And then, yeah. So, the other thing I would say about that video that we just saw, a little bit corny when he says the carpenter from Galilee tried to tell you. Well, yeah, I would take issue with that. Jesus didn't really explain a whole hell of a lot to us. He simply, in abstract terms, not abstract, but in basic terms, his message was that there is this kingdom of heaven, you know, and you go there when you die, and it's filled with magnificent people of different types, as we were talking about earlier. And that was all he was. He didn't really explain anything, right? He didn't. I'm not sure how much people would have understood. Right now, we're in a much better position to understand. But, you know, he didn't say anything about, you know, it was another race that came here and seeded us. You know, he didn't explain any of that. So, but I get where Bob's coming from, that we are going to find out a lot more about who we are. I think I already know. I think Bob's right that in the Sumerian clay tablets, the story of our creation, it could very well be the truth. And I also wanted to mention before we get to the Q&A, which is fantastic. I was going over the questions earlier. They're really good. But, oh shit, now what was I going to say? I guess it doesn't matter. So let's go to the questions. And yes. Something worked. Okay. Let's bring this window forward. So I asked a couple of weeks ago on Twitter if this question, if you had a chance to speak to someone who presumably was in the know, whether it was a human or an ET, if you could ask them some questions, what would those questions be? And man, you guys really came up with a bunch of very good questions. So am I on the right page? No, I'm not. I will be in a sec. Let's go to bookmarks, questions. There we go. All right. The first question comes from the Electric Bill. I'd ask, what the hell did we do Make sure it's at the top. What the hell did we do to piss the galaxy off so much? Here we are on a faraway outpost that only seems to be visited, interacted by shady and mysterious means. Did we do something, or are y'all just galactic assholes? Smiley face. Do we need to say sorry for something? What the fuck now? Okay. This is a great question. There's a lot in here. What the hell did we do to piss the galaxy off so much? I think that sentiment is probably coming from the sense that we're suffering down here on Earth, and I mean, even leaving ET out of the question, you could ask, what the hell did we do to deserve this kind of life? It's really awful. But then we, look back and we can see how it progressed. So, but then he goes on here. We're on a shady, faraway outpost. Shady and mysterious means of visitation. I'm sure that Bill means there that everything's being kept secret, and including the ETs there. But I would argue that the secrecy. I think I touched on this last time, so I won't repeat too much. But I think the secrecy will end, and I think once it does end, they will explain what the abductions were all about. That's coming later, and so that's that's why I don't get angry and upset about the secrecy too much. But I really am getting tired of defending their secrecy, because I think that at this point, we deserve the truth. We're struggling down here. I don't know if you guys they want to watch us just contort and spin and thrash. I mean, what is that entertaining for you guys? No, I know. I'm just being cynical. But a lot of people actually would get behind that sentiment. So do we need to apologize for something? Yeah, I mean, I think where he's coming from there is that we have, we're not very proud collectively of what we've done. And the great thing about that is that there's all these individuals who feel that way. And then you start to realize, what? Most people are good. It was just, we allowed these bad things to happen, and that they were engineered and orchestrated by the 1% who had a completely different hidden agenda, right? To make money, basically, and get control of the world and everything. But most people are good. So I'm sure that we don't feel good about our race because we look at the collective actions, but then we have to realize we're not exactly, we're just complicit, and we had to work, right? That's my argument. We had to work. How do we change the world and try to make a difference when it's just you got to work for a living? How you going to? We tried to do it by voting, right? We tried to change the world by voting. That didn't work because the system is now frozen. It's unchangeable. It doesn't matter who you vote. You heard me say that last time. So anyway, great question. Next question comes from Les Cropper. My question would be, how much is ET responsible for our history, and how much do they influence governments today? Thank you. Great question, and my answer is that they are responsible for genetically engineering us. I don't know where that race is right now, but they've got to be around. They are known as the Elohim in the Bible. That's the Hebrew word for God. And they're known as the Anunnaki in the Sumerian literature. So I think they're the same thing. And I think that this is one of the things that Lou Elizondo was talking about when he talked about Somber, was that he said that everything you learned in Sunday school is not exactly accurate, not exactly the way it is. And what he meant there was we weren't created by God, although all things were created by God, but our specific humanity was genetically engineered. That much we can say. So, what are the Greys doing here then? Are they the ones that genetically engineered us? I don't think so, because in the Bible it says, let us make man in our image and likeness, meaning that they look like us. And then the Bible does have many examples of angels that look just like men, except very good looking and all that. But so there is a race that looks like us, and they are probably our progenitor race. I don't think we've seen them. So all we see is the Greys. All we hear about is the Greys, and the reptiles that are possibly good looking, according to Danny Sheehan, right? And the Nordics, which they do look like us, but I don't know if they're our progenitor race. I've never heard anyone say that, so I really don't know. How much do they influence government today? I would say probably zero. I don't think they're influencing the government at all. I think the government and them are kind of at not a standoff, but they're not friends, that's for sure. Next question comes from Intelligentsia. Very nice. Question 1, who made us and why? Just covered that. I'm not sure. Well, why would be for for labor, okay? And interestingly enough, if you look at the story of Adam and Eve, it's very weird, because when they first describe Eden, it's described as a place where there is good gold along one of the rivers or something. Why would they mention that? Zecharia Sitchin theorized that the labor that we were doing when we were originally created was mining gold. That's only speculation. The tablets do not say that, but that's what everyone thinks of when they think of Zecharia Sitchin. I'm not sure, but I just think it's odd that they would mention gold in that story. And then on top of that, when it talks about God creating man, it looks like the way it's written, the reason he was created was because God had planted this beautiful garden in Eden, but there was no man to till it. So they created man to till that garden. That's what the Bible says. That doesn't say, but then it goes on to say, but hey, when we just finished creating all the animals, now let's make man, and let's make him in our image and likeness. Of course, there's two different stories, right? In the beginning of Genesis. They're conflicting, in fact. There's two different creation stories. But in the first one, they talk about the image and likeness. In the second one, they just say that there was not a man to till the garden, and so God created man from the clay and breathed the breath of life into him. But the purpose was to work. So although it's described as a paradise, and it probably was, his purpose was to work. And that correlates with the Sumerian. It's almost like a whitewashing of the Sumerian story. So very interesting. Who are they, and what the F are they up to here? And why all the covert behavior? Yeah, exactly. And Bob Dean was saying, who are we? He was saying, like, we're going to find out who we are. And I'm saying 2023 was the year we stopped asking, why are we here? And started asking, why are they here? And I'm asking that question too. and I'm dying to know because I think it's good news. Everything in my heart tells me it is. I'm close. I feel like I'm close to something that is causing my heart to just leap. So if it was something really negative, I would feel that, and I don't. And I don't think we deserve it at this point in time. I really do think our karma indicates that something good is coming our way. So, okay. Next question is from Jai Bhagwan. What is the distinction between God, gods, and avatars? I can only say from a biblical perspective, there is no real description of God in the Bible, because those beings that were in the Old Testament were not God. Yahweh was pretending to be God, and all the other gods were Yahweh's brethren, fellow Elohim, or Anunnaki, if you wish, that were, I guess, lesser in power, or I don't know what, but Yahweh seemed to have the upper hand with them and basically came in and cleaned house. But he was not God. So the Bible is not about God, unfortunately. It's only about ETs. But that's not to say that God doesn't exist and wasn't part of what's going on, what was going on then, what's going on now, what was going on in Yahweh's mind. The real God was above all. It's just hard to see how he could permit such suffering here. That's what I would say. Avatars, I don't know anything about. I mean, the concept is, it could very well be a very key concept, because the Greys supposedly have the ability to put your soul into a different body. I mean, Jesus, that is godlike. So, let me just lock this. Okay. Let me see if I can scroll with my mouse, or if I have to use my hand, I think. Okay. Next question comes from Rob. I'd ask when we can get rid of fossil fuels and become a civilization that uses free energy over unity. I'd ask, when can we traverse the cosmos and cure all disease? Yeah, you're looking for utopia, and so am I. And believe it or not, Rob, I see a path to it. And it starts with NHI technology, free energy. So that would get rid of fossil fuels. And it would also get us out from under the boot of the fossil fuel military-industrial complex, part of it. Tim Burchett said that basically free energy could put the DoD out of business. I think that was very wise. Someone's been talking to him, because he's right. I mean, free energy could free us, right? It's almost a nice play on words, because it can free us because it can decentralize everything, you see. So that's where centralization is, where all the control comes in. But if like the internet is hard to control because it's decentralized. I don't know if you guys knew that, but every node on the internet, any node can go down, but the internet itself won't go down. It was built that way by the smart people in the military, unfortunately. That's where everything comes from, right? Damn it. Yeah, we're in the dark timeline where our history is all of our technological innovation stems first from the military, and then outward to the public, except what happened here with the most important, the most globe-changing technology. They hit it and prevented a full century of stagnation, lost opportunity at Utopia. But that's all coming back. And I can't hardly believe it, Rob, but I see a path. And as far as traveling the cosmos and curing all disease, yeah, I'm all ready for the med beds. And as far as cruising the cosmos, I promised my wife that in our wedding vows that, you know, we would be with each other till death do us part, and after that, we would cruise the cosmos together. Because we both loved that idea of being on a ship like Star Trek Next Generation and having a job like science officer or communications officer or any of the lower jobs, and having quarters on a starship. I mean, it's never know. You never know how. I can tell you one thing: it's going to be much more exciting than even the TV show was. A lot more. Like Jodie Foster had said, I had no idea. It's going to be great. All right. So next question comes from Barry Vickers. Hi, Barry. Do you believe in God? Is the question he poses to the ETs. Do you recognize scientifically that the formation of the universe was a creation event? Are you able to access the supernatural dimension? I don't know whether they believe in God, but I know some anecdotal stories. One that I'm very keen to tell you about is a guy named, he has a book out, he's dead now, Phil Kraft, Krapf, I think is the way it's spelled. He was a Los Angeles, LA Times copywriter, and he never believed in UFOs, and he had seen many stories as a copy editor, but never believed in them. And also he was an atheist. And then one day he was abducted, and I think this was after he was retired. And he was taken aboard a ship, and I guess the purpose was, to have him write a white paper about that race and about some other stuff. And that's not really germane to the story. But when Phil was blown away because he had never believed in UFOs, and now he was on a starship, and from what he described, he went to the observation area, with a clear ceiling or no ceiling. It looked like no ceiling, he said. And he could see all the stars in their brilliance. And it was just overwhelming. And when he went back to his quarters, he started asking his female escort. She was assigned to him. How long do you people live? And she said, I think she said between 1,000 and 10,000 years. And he said, wow, are you kidding me? That doesn't seem very fair. We only live like 80 years at 90 years. And she said to him, yes, but it really doesn't matter in the end, since we all have eternal souls. Right? And then that made him even more overwhelmed, because now he was wrong about two really major things. He felt he was starting to think that maybe he was wrong about God, and he was wrong about, or at least, about eternal life, and that and he was wrong about UFOs, which both were huge topics. And so I think that eternal life is, okay, that's one thing. What about God? Well, then when Phil got down in the dumps, really about feeling how stupid he had been, she noticed, and she sent in for a counselor who was also an alien, right? They're all aliens on the ship. And he comes in, and he's actually a religious, one of their religious leaders. And he tells Phil a story about their own race and how they ran up against an area of space where they couldn't seem to go any further. It's like a boundary or something. But there was a gate of pearl, and they recognized the reference from the Bible and thought that maybe they should try to enter the gate. So they called for their highest religious man in their race, and he was not on board the ship at that time. So they waited for him to arrive, and he arrived, and he shunned everyone. They were all wanting to, pomp and circumstance, and he just went into his room, and then emerged and took a shuttle or something outside the ship and went into that gate and spent a few days there. Kind of reminds me of Moses on the Mount. They were wondering when he was going to come back. So then eventually he does come back, and everyone is waiting on his report. And he just has one word, and that word was rejoice. So Phil then said, okay, and the guy goes, the alien goes, well, this is just a story about a son of God visiting his father. And I think that's all Phil. I don't think he pressed him any further on that. But what this story tells me is that it's either like made up with the gates of pearl, or maybe the Bible is correct that there is some sort of, maybe they did find a dimension or something that was like the kingdom of heaven. I don't know. But the fact that they sent in one of their representatives and that he came back and said, rejoice, it's just good news. It's just good news. So I love that story, and it does give me the feeling that, now, what kind of aliens were they? They were not exactly gray. They were not exactly the grays. They were a little more, quite a bit more emotional and friendly. And they didn't, but they were small, just like the grays were. So they were called the Verdants, which I think their planet was called Verdant, and that was a translation from what it meant, what their word meant, to what our word of verdant, which means very green and lush, flora and fauna, that kind of thing. So a great story. Hope it wasn't too long of an answer, but it's one of my favorite stories to tell. Next, as far as, I didn't really address the rest of your question, Barry. Do you recognize scientifically that the formation of the universe was a creation event? Yeah, I've never heard whether they have or not. I do remember that someone asked them whether evolution was real, and they said evolution is real or true, but life on Earth did not evolve naturally. That's what they said. Are you able to access the spiritual dimension? Yeah, that's what everybody's wondering. People are like Tucker Carlson brought, and thank you, Tucker, for bringing this subject to us. You're smart enough to do that, and you have no idea how smart you are. But what Tucker did say is there's a spiritual component to this. And, well, that is, in fact, something that all of us, before Tucker even started getting a hint of any of this, we've been talking about that. And we don't really know, but there is some sort of connection. Like Whitley Strieber says that Anne Strieber, after reading thousands of letters, concluded that these beings and this experience is all wrapped up in death. It's all related to death and life after death. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see. Where's Jesus in all of this? You know, is he going to make a grand entrance after some kind of false flag attack that brings us all together, and then we realize they weren't actually hostile after all, but we were, so we had to be brought under control. Anyway, thanks, Barry, for that question. The next question comes from Profiler Astrology. Is Homo sapiens an alien hybrid? Yeah, we covered that. KG asks, what is humanity's greatest potential that we can reach to be on par with NHI? Great question, because that it's such a good question, KG, because it shows you've been thinking about what would it be like to be out there living with ETs. And as I said in my previous segment, I think there's going to be a leveling up, of us, so that they will put us on a par. We've done the hard work, which is we have defined our morality. You know, we've discerned the knowledge of good and evil, and we learned that by suffering down here, and that was the hard work. Now, the easy work might be to level us up in terms of intellectual capacity, psionic capabilities, telepathy, even technology, of course. All of these things would probably bring us technologically on a par with at least the more basic warp-capable civilizations out there. So I do think that there is going to be a leveling up process, and we'll see what that looks like. But it's certainly going to be an expanded consciousness, and I think we're going to live free, and I think we're going to enjoy it, and it's all good news. This nightmare could be coming to an end. Next question comes from Anthony Harkin. Are we in a zoo being observed by fourth or fifth dimensional beings? The question of whether we're in a zoo is one that's on a lot of people's minds, because if they're not coming out to us, we're aware of them, right? But they haven't come out to us yet. Well, then we start jumping to conclusions like, and then we're told that they've been around forever, right? I don't buy this 100,000 years thing, because I just don't know who has the patience for a 100,000 year project. I think it's more like 6,000 years, but of course there were humans before, so maybe there was previous iterations. Maybe the pyramids are from a previous iteration of humans. I don't know. But, okay. Yeah, the zoo thing. So because they haven't shown up yet, we're starting to feel like they're just using us for something, and they don't want us to know about them. I don't agree with that, but I think it looks like that at this point. I mean, it doesn't look like that to me, but it could look like that if you really wanted to look at it that way. So that's why I think it's important, and I'm saying this to the ETs, don't you care about the ones of us who are awake and I don't know. You know what I'm getting at. Okay. Yeah, so just to finish the question on the zoo, because it is a big one. No, I don't think we're in a zoo, but I do think we are part of a project. We are a batch of human beings that probably started about 6,000 years ago. And I don't mean that, there was no man before then, right? I just went over that. But I do think that we are a batch of human beings. So in a sense, we're being cultivated and we're being farmed. But what I think our destiny is to become our farmers, become the ones who are, controlling this project. We're going to rise up to be with them. And, then the curtain will be lifted and we'll be grown up and graduated. That's what I think is going to happen. I don't think it's a farm, man. Okay. Next question comes from Spencer Fisher. Son of Man, if they actually are credible, then the biggest question is, what's next after we die? And how do they know? Yeah. Yeah, that's what I would ask them. What happens when we die? Is there a soul trap out there? Is the white light a soul trap? No, I don't think so. But God, we know so little. Next question, Patrick Roy. What is the purpose and extent of ET involvement with human souls pre and in between incarnations? Are they guides? Are they working with the souls or higher self of their subjects? I discuss this on my podcast, Aliens for Beginners, frequently. Big mystery. Yeah, it is. It is. Arthur C. Clarke, in his amazing prescience, said that he described ET as cosmic midwives attending a difficult birth. I just thought, holy shit, that is a great way of putting it. This is a difficult birth, isn't it? And we're not through it yet. There are labor pains. That is for sure. Next question comes from Press to Digitate. Quite a few questions. All of them good. How many hybrids are integrated into human society? I would say probably zero, but everybody has a different take on that. The reason I would say zero is because it's deception, and unless they don't know they're hybrids, in which case it's deception on a higher level by the people who placed them here. And I just don't think they're into any form of deception because it's a nasty thing to do. So, but then again, wiping your memory, is that deception? It is, in a sense, yeah. So, it's hard to say. How many work for the federal government? Oh, God, I would probably say zero. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in this fucking mess. 3, how many within the CIA? Yeah. The IC, generally. DOD, DHS, DOE, DOJ. Boy, you know your stuff, man. They're all involved in this. But no, I don't think there's any ETs in there. Just my opinion. How many alien hybrid operatives within NIH? Like how many humans are working with the NIH and CDC, FDA, WIV, WHO, EcoHealth, right? For starters, right? Yeah, I don't know. Don't know. Next question, Jesse Palmer. Please describe the big picture for us and how we can contribute to the prospering humanity and culture growing here and now. Yeah, I want that big picture described to us. And I can tell you what my sense of the big picture is that continuing with that farming analogy, or Jesus talking about, they planted wheat and they planted tares. They didn't plant tares, and when they came back, there was all these tares which look like wheat, but they're not wheat. They're poisonous. And in that parable, the servant says to the master, should we pull up all the all the tares? And he said, no, otherwise you might be pulling up all the wheat with it. So they must remain side by side and grow until the harvest. And then at the harvest time, we all go to heaven, and go to the kingdom of heaven. And there might even be like a waiting chamber, like a stasis or something, so that we all go together. All of us that have ever lived together at one time. That's the way it's described in the Bible. What do ETs have to do with this? Well, I think that we will learn that they are somehow also evolving, and maybe even evolving with us. And they may be waiting for this evolution as well as us. So I don't know. I just think that great things are ahead, and I can't wait till they start. God knows we're not in a good place right now. And how we can contribute to the prospering humanity. The best way that I think we can contribute is make sure that we just behave like ourselves, like our true selves. And that means ceasing all lying to ourselves and to others. And also ceasing all lying includes false facades. Just be yourself, because you're good enough, you're smart enough, and doggone it, people like you just when you're being yourself. When you put on a facade, that's where the corruption seeps in. The ego is just insidious. The best thing we can do, because we want to unite with each other, and in order to do that, we have to be our authentic selves. And that means we don't have to put on airs, we can just be ourselves. And that's good enough. In fact, people like it. It's refreshing. Just my opinion, Jesse. Shot Down Mind, who has a very he's edgy, he or she. Explain your understanding of UFO alien harm to humans, abductions, cattle and cat mutilations, and other types, UFO shoot-downs, nukes, Antarctica, Nazis, Richard Byrd, NASA, Roswell and CIA, Gary McKinnon, Space Force, Craft at S4, remote viewing, pyramids. Last one first, pyramids. There's a great cartoon, which I can't show you right now, but it shows a picture of a UFO hovering above the Great Pyramid, and the caption, because it's talking, it's saying, still looks pretty good. As far as harm to humans, I don't know of any. But except for the psychological stigma that people have, that people face. They feel all alone. That's harmful. They don't seem to care. So I don't like that. They're going to have to answer for that. But, like I said, if there is a good answer for it, and this is going to require faith. The very first episode of Star Trek, the original series, was a double episode. It was the one where Spock took over control of the ship because he wanted to fulfill the life dreams of his former Captain Pike, who had become paralyzed and living a horrible life in a wheelchair. And in that story, the aliens appeared to be negative. They really did, because they even seemed to be torturing somebody. But it turns out they had a reason for that. And the reason was that they were looking for a replacement race for themselves, I guess. And they were finding humans to be actually too violent for their liking. So they rejected using us. But you see, the way it flipped there at the end is that they were very happy to give both Pike and another woman who was suffering similar conditions with her body a new body, or at least the sense of a new body, like a virtual reality. And they were very happy to do that. And I know this is all fiction, but I'm just pointing out that what may look negative right now may turn out to be actually something wonderful. And if it doesn't, then all bets are off, and it is a unjust universe, and there is no God, and there is no good out there. And yeah, I don't believe that. Don't believe it for a second. All these other things are very interesting, but everybody knows about them, so I won't really discuss them. But we all still have questions about all those things. I totally agree with you. The next question comes from Wolfman, and we are almost at the end, so not too far. If you aren't extraterrestrial and are actually interdimensional, how do we as a race expand ourselves to also become interdimensional? Yes, I love this question because I think it matches the other question about, how do we get on par with these guys so that we can kind of join them and be with them? And it really shows that people are really thinking about the future and about this reality. It's amazing possibilities that are facing us. And we've already addressed this question. I've already addressed it, so I won't go into it. But I will touch on the dimensional versus extraterrestrial thing. I'm saying that the only reason I think people are talking about dimensions now is because they have seen these ships disappear and then reappear before their very eyes. And they have seen, Eisenhower saw the extraterrestrials disappear. They did a little demonstration for him that they could appear and disappear at will. So when we scientifically think about this, the only thing we can imagine is that they are somehow shifted into a different dimension, maybe a different frequency zone, and we do have that wonderful analogy of the radio tuner. When you tune your FM radio or your AM radio, you're getting one station at a time, and they're separated by frequencies that are not used. And so all these nodes are at different frequencies. All these stations are at different frequencies, and they don't know, they can't hear each other. You can't hear anything from another channel when you're tuned to this one, and that's what separates the dimensions. So it could be something like that. I do think that we're heading towards a lighter dimension, a dimension. I mean, I don't know if it's, yeah, I guess we're sticking with the word dimension. So we're heading into a dimension of light and immediate connections like electricity. So electricity is really a great premonition of what the next world is going to look like, where things don't take time. I mean, things take time, but not things that are like, there'd be less mass. Is from what I understood, everything is like light based. I don't know. I'm out of my wheelhouse. All of us are, I guess. But yeah, that's why I think that even David Grush is talking about interdimensional, because they saw it disappear. That's what I'm guessing. Jack Sarfati could probably tell me if I'm right. Jack, if you're watching, tell me if I'm right. Randy, one of my favorite people, because he's such a kind and good-hearted person, and he's been asking for me to make videos. You know, he's like, I guess for some reason he enjoys listening to me. And his question is really one that I love. He goes, I'd want to know if they made us. Yeah. If they made us, what made them? I mean, you can't help but think of Prometheus. That was the question that whatever her name was, our protagonist, female, had, was, okay, I'm going in search of our creator. I mean, our makers, you know, based on this thing and the cave paintings and all that. They found the planet, they went there, and then they found out that our engineers actually tried to destroy us. And so then she wanted to know, okay, well, who made them then? So, yeah, in Prometheus, it was really not a nice thing to find out that our creators tried to destroy us. There is some, that was what the flood was, you know. But, yeah, I don't want to go there. Yeah, okay, let's finish this question. Also, what is their relationship to us? Yes, and what is their relationship to us? Where's Jesus here? What is he doing? And then he asks, what has our contact with them been like throughout history? That's a good question too, because it doesn't seem like there's, well, I mean, other than the fact that there are these stories of them having lived with us. But like, if you go back over the last 2,000 years since Jesus, there really hasn't been much. There was the Fatima secrets and, you know, some sporadic contact with ET, but there just hasn't been that much contact. Although, you know, Einstein and Tesla both claimed that they were getting extraterrestrial inspiration, and I think it was very honest of them to admit that. I think it's true, so what does that say? And then he asks, why are they presumably more communicative with world governments as opposed to the world's people? Boy, that is a good question. When he says presumably, I think that's a good catch there, because I'm not sure that they're more communicative with world governments. We do know that, and I do believe that the story is probably true about the meeting with Eisenhower, but I don't know how true it is that we have any kind of agreements with them. You know, what everyone on Twitter suspects is that, I mean, not me, but so many other people, they think that we made an agreement that they could do whatever the hell they wanted, and we wouldn't say nothing, and in exchange we would get some high technology from them. But there's only one problem with that, is that we don't seem to have that high technology. We have crashed recoveries and we have intact recoveries, but nobody showed us how they work. Nobody gave us instructions on how to build this kind of stuff. So what kind of, and besides that, wouldn't they be smart enough to know that the government does not really represent the will of the people? Or is that part of their, I think one of our greatest lessons that we have to learn is that, I think the biggest mistakes that humanity made collectively is to give our power away to people who don't even have our best interest at heart. Their interests are bought off. So is that part of their plan, to teach us that our governments can't be trusted? It doesn't. It seems like a half-assed way to teach us that lesson. So I don't know. At this point, I don't see any evidence of any agreements. My sense is that they probably did want to let humans know that they were abducting people, but they also wanted them to know that they were doing so in a humane way and they were wiping their memories. But they didn't tell us why. They didn't tell us why they were doing this. And that's what everybody wants to know. So as far as agreements, I don't buy it, but everybody's saying that there are, maybe there were. I mean, there is that evidence that Whitley, I think, provided, that some of the contactees have stated that they've seen humans in the ship along with the ETs. And my strong sense, if that's true, those humans, and they were military, in military gear, and they did not interfere, but they oversaw. So my thought was that they were probably there to oversee, make sure nothing bad happened. And I have a feeling that after they got the sense that, okay, we've seen them do this 100 times now, and they're not deviating, they don't seem to be, that's all they're going to do. So I guess we don't have to watch anymore. So eventually the humans didn't show, weren't there anymore. But again, hopefully we're going to find out. The reason for all these abductions is either a coevolution situation where they need us, to take a step backwards in their evolution. And they are also going to, at the same time, help us by giving us a step forward in evolution. Best scenario, right? Thank you, Randy. Next question, Salt, comes from Salt. How do aliens/NHI understand the afterlife? And or can they interact with it? Or indeed, are even part of it? Damned if I know. But it's a very good question and one that we need an answer to. Thank you, Salt. Ken Williams asks, how many different types of aliens are known? I lost my place here. Gee, it seems like I missed one here, didn't I? Right after Randy is from Direct Perception. What needs to happen to get malevolent beings back in line with Source? That's a great question. If there are malevolent beings, why are they so immature if they are malevolent? I have no idea, but I think it would be whatever it takes to get humans back in line with Source would be the same thing that needs to happen to get them back in Source. And what would that be? I don't know. Connection, telepathy. I don't know. Good question, though. And then we'll go to the Geordie ufologist. Love Geordie. Why visit Earth and not announce your presence on an undeniable world stage? Why visit Earth and not? Yeah. Why? In other words, why visit here but not announce your presence on an undeniable world stage? Yeah, it's because the minute they announce their presence, everything changes in the world. And I think at the same time that they announce their presence, there's going to be possibly accompanied with that will be some kind of an upgrade for humans, or maybe healing, and of course technology. And all of these things are going to change the world forever. So if this was intentionally a school for souls where life was difficult, but it was okay with God that it was difficult, because in this adversity, we came to find out who we really were. We overcame our ego and we found our higher self and we embraced it. And yeah, I kind of lost my. Oh yeah, so everything changes. So because it is so disruptive, it has to be. It's just a one-time thing. In other words, once they come, everything changes. So they're not going to come until the right time. That's my take on it. But they are going to come, and there is going to be a time, and it's going to change everything. And it'll no longer be a school, but it will be more of a utopia. And I think we have that coming to us. We've been suffering forever, so we're ready. That's my feeling, Jordy. James, another good friend of mine on Twitter. 8 billion people on the planet. Why did you pick to visit me? Right. Isn't it interesting that none of the abductees know why they were chosen? They were never told. Or if they were, it's all one-offs. There was never anything that we could count on for a pattern. So nobody knows why certain people are picked. And nobody really knows how many people have been abducted. I mean, let's just go to the max and say everyone's been abducted. And then you would have to ask yourself, who the hell has the time to do that? What kind of a race? Could be the Greys. They could be that powerful. But why would that be the case if everyone has been abducted? I doubt if everyone has, but maybe a certain number. I get the feeling like it's like everyone that they abduct, they're getting something for themselves out of it, but they're also like turning on a light in that person. And I suspect that they think that light will increase the more people that they abduct and touch like this, and that will sort of gently spread throughout the population and change things, and for the better, but I can't say that things have gotten any better so far, so I don't know. Oh, I was just going to say that if everyone has been abducted, then what that would imply was that they're trying to prepare this particular generation of people that are alive right now for an ascension. That's the only thing I could imagine, but I really don't think everyone's been abducted. But I do think that they have prepared us possibly for some kind of ascension that's coming. We'll see. I hate to predict because I'm really bad at it. observer of anomalous objects who has his own podcast and is a pastor, a good friend of mine on Twitter. Larry, my question is, if full disclosure happens and the president comes out and says, we have several alien craft, some in parts and others that are whole, will that initiate disclosure from the aliens themselves? Surely they understand that their hide-and-seek behavior isn't working anymore. What a great question. Stephen Bassett and I agree that once we acknowledge publicly to the world that we are not alone, that is going to influence them. And I think that they will come out and they will, what was I going to say? That the abductions will stop at that point, if they're still happening. Stephen says the abductions will stop at that point and it will be revealed why they were happening. And I think we're going to like it. And I think that if they have a conscience at all, they must be itching for that day as well, where they can tell us the truth. Because right now they're not allowed to. And so I definitely agree that the hide and seek behavior isn't working anymore. And we are at that point, perhaps, where the jig is almost up, but not everyone has woken up yet. And so we're kind of looking around, watching the normies, waiting for them to wake up a little bit. And but we're also waiting for the ETs to make their next move, because we know they're here, and yet they pretend that we don't know, and that they take us for fools. And so it's very frustrating at this point. It feels that way, but maybe if they're good, they understand that and they intend to remedy it soon, because it has to be soon. Otherwise, I'm going to change my whole outlook on all of this. Something good has to come out soon. All right, we're down to our last two questions. Roger M. Hunt asks, have aliens carried out human abductions and cattle mutilations? If so, why? Right. Well, to create hybrids, they have done this. And as far as cattle mutilations, we have very scant evidence, but Linda Moulton Howe does have one witness who was taken aboard the ship and got to watch what they did with the cow. And they explained to this person that what they were doing was for sustenance, that they needed something from the blood and something from the pieces of organs that they take. They make a slurry out of it. That's the only story that we've heard. Makes sense in a way, but what doesn't make sense to me is, if they're good, if there is enlightened beings as we think they are, or as I think they are, why the hell are they taking cattle from ranchers without paying for it and then killing the animal, possibly while it's still alive, doing something like draining its blood? I think they even said in Linda's witness that they had to do this while the animal was alive. Oh, it sounds terrible. And then drop the animal back down on the ground with a thud. No, thank you. Just a big fuck you, really, to the cattle ranchers. That doesn't sound like an advanced race to me. So it makes me wonder what the hell's going on. Stephen Greer's witnesses talk about something that is just really dark, which is that we have groups of humans that have been recruited by the CIA to because of their psi abilities, to become super soldiers with implants, and they behave terribly. Could it be that they are some kind of genetic hybrids that live on this stuff, and they're using their own UFOs, flying saucers, to abduct cattle and then drop the body back? It sounds like a human thing to me to do, and not a good human. I shouldn't say it sounds like a human thing, because it's very inhumane. But there are inhumane people, and especially these ones that are rumored to exist out of the Department of Energy. This is all Michael Herrera's story. So if you've heard that, it's an amazing story. Thanks, Roger. Next and last question from Ron Martin. Although I can appreciate the idea to not influence our ways with their presence. Although I can appreciate the idea to not influence our ways with their presence, it wasn't always so. We have stories from across the globe about sky people and their influence on early civilizations. So what changed? And why the pullback on guidance for humanity? Oh, that's another great question. I'm so proud of my Twitter community, our Twitter community. Gives me faith in humanity, really, honestly, to see so many great questions. Did I miss Sally's question, by the way, before I get to Euron? I think I did miss Sally's question. Sorry, Sally. Let me scroll up here. How did I miss that? Sally asks, what does death, the afterlife, and contact with dead loved ones have to do with ET? Are they deceptively using them as cover for contact? Yeah, I think she's asking, would they pretend to be your dead loved ones when in fact they're ETs? And what does death and the afterlife and what does this have to do with ET? And that's we've touched on it, and I won't hit it again. But yeah, it's a great question. Seems to be related. All right, so let's go back to Ron. Yes, so we have all these stories of sky people from our early civilizations, where and the Bible has its own. Well, it's actually in the Book of Enoch. But the story is that the fallen angels were attracted to human females. And so they came down and made camp with us and started taking wives and having children, and also teaching mankind all the secrets of heaven, according to the Book of Enoch. And these secrets were such things as farming, making metal, how to smelt metal, how to make medicine from things in the woods, including a medicine that would prevent females from getting pregnant. It was a brew that they could make that she would drink. And according to the Book of Enoch, this angered God, because this was forbidden to do this kind of thing. But it has, so I don't know. To me, it seems like a welcome thing. Why, if you go back to the story of the Garden of Eden, why was the tree of knowledge of good and evil forbidden from us? Why put it there if it was forbidden from us? It's knowledge. He's saying he didn't want us to have knowledge. Well, what father wouldn't want their child to have knowledge? I don't doesn't make sense to me. Which side are you on? I mean, which side should we be on? Should we be on the side of the fallen angels who came down here? I don't know exactly all that they did, but apparently their children became giants. I doubt if it was intentional. I don't think they knew it was going to happen, but it did. And these giants, you know, wreaked havoc. And also, they also created all kinds of human animal hybrids. For what purpose? Playing God, I guess, having fun. And the Bible says that all flesh had corrupted his way. And that's why the flood was brought. So it's hard to say. I mean, it looks like what they did ended up in catastrophe. We need more information. I just had something downloaded just now, which was that it could be that when they came down to teach us, that we didn't take the education and do the right thing with it. And therefore, it was decided that we should all be wiped out. I don't know. Just taking a guess. Not sure that was a download. It was just an idea. Anyway, those were really great questions. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed that. I know the first part one was full of I don't know. I didn't think I did too well on part one, but I hope you thought so. I hope you enjoyed it. Before I leave, I want to tell you in the words of the great Jennifer Stone. She used to sign her show off each night with these words. Go easy. And if you can't go easy, go as easy as you can. Love you guys.